Climate change in the US is more apparent than ever this summer. It's been a season of record-breaking temperatures, dangerous air quality levels, destructive wildfires, and other climate-related concerns. Americans across the country are seeing and feeling their environments shift on a whole new level, and that's coming with mental health challenges. Namely, climate anxiety, which is a type of anxiety where people have distress about climate doom. Even before this summer, climate anxiety in the US was brewing. A December 2022 survey found that about 10% of Americans reported experiencing symptoms of anxiety related to climate change. That included feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge because of global warming for at least several days of the week. That research comes from the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication and the George Mason University Center for Climate Change Communication. So, how can we manage these feelings in uncertain times? We asked 5 climate-aware therapists across the US for their best tips and practices for managing eco-anxiety. If you've never heard of these types of practitioners, let me fill you in. A climate-aware therapist is trained to help patients address their feelings about the climate crisis. It's a relatively new addition to the field of psychology. To start off, let's talk about climate advocacy. A lot of people channel their climate anxiety into activism, which can be a helpful way of coping. But ongoing advocacy can sometimes lead to burnout.
The issues that come up in therapy are like, wow, I'm really burnt out and I want to take a break.
That's Lily Seaman, a clinical social worker in Eastern Washington.
And how do I give myself permission? Like I have so much shame or guilt about taking a step back. Can I do that?
That's why climate-aware therapists often don't push their clients to get involved with advocacy right off the bat. Instead, the first step in climate therapy is usually just letting patients feel validation for their climate concerns. Discussing local issues in the patient's area can be helpful.
So these people are like having things kind of done to their community. They not only disagree, but they are loudly voicing their kind of disapproval of it and still being ignored.
You just heard Elizabeth Padella, a psychotherapist in Bloomington, Minnesota. After unpacking which climate issues are especially disruptive, practitioners employ different methods to teach patients how to cope. Padella has found it's helpful for patients to sit with their thoughts.
Okay, you feel an uncomfortable feeling, whether it's sadness or fear. Like, can you tolerate sitting with that for 7 minutes?
The ways these thoughts manifest look different on a case-by-case basis. Chelsea Risner, a therapist in Brooklyn, recalls one patient that needed time to calm down from those thoughts.
It took a few sessions to sort of come down from that, really scary thought that, oh my God, is the world going to end?
That patient had a particularly religious family, which can add in layers of existential crisis.
So it's like, so what does this mean in relation to that?
Some need additional tools to help handle those thoughts. Padella uses thought diffusion, a method where one observes their thoughts without putting meaning onto them.
Anxiety is telling you a really loud story, but that's just a story. Like, it's just a thought. I want you to stay with your body and with your feelings instead of with that story.
A lot of climate anxiety is tied to uncertainty. Like in OCD, that can lead to rumination if not properly managed.
There's a lot of just worry and speculation about if this goes through, what will happen? Like, right? Will my asthma get worse? Will my kids be okay? So there's very valid anxiety about what will a year from now look like? What will 10 years from now look like? So it's also talking through that.
Individuals can feel helpless due to the enormity of climate issues. Here's Joanna Person-Missioner, a licensed professional counselor in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
And I always tell them, we do not have total control over what happens to the climate system, not on an individual level. we do the best that we can with our individual choices in terms of lifestyle and sustainability, in terms of civic engagement.
This can be a good time to learn about climate psychology terms, which many climate-aware practitioners' patients find to be helpful. For example, solastalgia is when one is homesick for an environment that has experienced change. These terms can provide a sense of validation, according to Person Missioner, and allows patients to feel less alone in their emotions. Kristen Jackson Bannister, a somatic practitioner in Tucson, Arizona, works the mind-body connection. That includes techniques like breathwork and meditation.
Different ways of grounding and centering and just helping ourselves to be a little more regulated. And by regulated, I'm talking specifically about the nervous system.
Also, pay attention to how climate effects are impacting your emotions. Arizona experienced a record-setting 31 consecutive days of extreme heat between June and July. Jackson Bannister notes it's common for people to feel angry when they're really hot.
I think that one of the ways we can work with ourselves and also address what happens in the collective around heat is to put our intention on kindness, on being kind to each other.
Other coping tips include taking a break from climate news when it becomes overwhelming, spending time in nature, and finding community.
Whether it's in person or online, that's like something that I really strongly encourage.
That could mean joining a climate cafe or participating in a program like the Good Grief Network, a 10-step program focused on peer-to-peer support for eco-distress. What's most important is breaking the shared silence around climate anxiety.
There's so little that gets talked about, and it means that people really have to hold their own distress as a private individual thing instead of a collective issue.
To find a climate-aware therapist, visit the directory at www.climatepsychology.us/climate-therapists. I'm Jill Webb. Thank you for listening.